Otis Wheeler and John Philbrick were the first two Mainers to ever earn medals from the U.S. Life-Saving Service. The pair braved a sub-zero gale, rescuing two men stranded on a ledge off Cape Elizabeth here. They performed their act of heroism 142 years ago last week, on December 1st, 1875. Now, Wheeler and Philbrick were the only two people on Richmond Island that winter. And around 9 a.m., Wheeler looked out his window and saw a chilling sight. A man was standing on Watt's Ledge just off the eastern end of the island. Wheeler ran and found Philbrick, and the two set out in a dory to rescue the man. A northwestern gale was lashing the island, and the temperature was below zero. When they got close, they could see another man lying motionless in a crevice on the ice-covered ledge. They thought he was dead, and nearby was a wrecked fishing smack on the ledge too. Somehow they managed to land the dory on the ledge without staving it in, and they got both men into the boat. And they found the second man was actually alive when he let out a faint moan. Then they rowed hard against the wind in whitecaps back to the safety of Broad Cove on the other side of the island. They landed the dory, carried both men, who were really just teenagers, into Wheeler's house. They had to cut the boys' boots off their frozen and swollen feet, and they treated them for frostbite, putting their blistered and blackened feet and hands into cold water. Wheeler then went back to his dory and rowed it a mile through the surf here to the mainland. He walked to a store and he bought liniment, cornmeal, coffee, and a few other things. And he asked the storekeeper to get word of what happened back to Portland. Then he rowed back to the island. Wheeler and Philbrick then took turns nursing the boys for the next 30 hours. And during that time, they learned the tale of how the boys ended up on the ledge. They said they'd left Small Point in Phipsburg the day before on their way to Boston, but they'd lost the way in a heavy fog. Then the furious gale came up and dashed them on the rocks at about 9 p.m. Now that was at high tide, when the seawater covers that ledge, so they stood in knee-deep water for most of the night. Freezing water. It was a miracle they survived. When word finally reached Portland, the Federal Revenue cutter Dallas steamed over here to Richmond Island. They took the boys back to town. But when questioned separately by authorities, the boys' story kind of fell apart. The truth was, they'd stolen the boat from Falmouth Foreside, then robbed at least one ship in Portland Harbor. They were on their way to parts unknown when they wrecked. The boys' misdeeds aside, the U.S. Life-Saving Service gave Wheeler and Philbrick silver medals for their unselfish deeds. 17 more Mainers would go on to win medals from the service for saving lives over the years, but as far as I know, Wheeler and Philbrick were the only ones who ever apprehended thieves at the same time.